So within this video, we'll be talking about two movies that we watched this week called Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind and Princess Mononoke. Now, both these movies are Japanese animated epics that draw inspiration from sci-fi and fantasy aspects. And they're both directed by Hayao Miyazaki, and he is a director that takes a lot of inspiration from feminism, strong female characters, anti-war, non-violence, love, and moral ambiguity, which is like the non-black and white aspect of the movie. As we see a lot that the villains have a lot of justified reasons for doing what they do, and it even makes you question whose side you're on within the movie. We see him taking a lot of environmental standpoints about how humans affect the world, and how unlike in other films, the woman's being shown not to be weak, being shown to be powerful. So we'll get into all that as we go through this vlog. Now, Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, takes place in a post-apocalyptic world in which civilization has been destroyed by a poisonous forest infested with insects, and it's slowly consuming the world. Within the movie, a war is also going on between the Tolmekians and the Pedgites, and they interfere with the Valley of the Wind, which is a very peaceful place. Nausicaa's father ends up being killed at one point, and everything spirals out of control. Now, our protagonist, Nausicaa, who's the princess of the Valley of the Wind, she plays a strong female feminist role that we have within the movie. She's very respected and inspired by her people, to the point that even parents want her kids to end up to be like her. And she's a fearless leader. She leads them through this terrible event that is happening upon them, and she even has this magical component towards her. She has a connection with the nature and the insects that people fear. She even believes that the humans and the insects can live in peace as long as they leave each other alone. And that's a very also interesting component. But her magical powers allows her to connect with nature and calm down the ohms and the other insects that are very enraged and angry. Nausicaa holds a very non-violent standpoint within the movie. She only gets violent at one point when her father is killed. It's only because she's very angry, and even after she says that that was not right and that violence is not the way. And it's very strange for her to hold this non-violent standpoint when there's a war going on between the Tolmekians and the Pedgites, and each one of them want to use this giant warrior to burn the toxic jungle. But only Nausicaa can really understand that that is not the right decision. Within the movie, there's also a prophecy going on that a warrior wearing blue shall walk on a golden field and save them from the destruction. And the whole time, this warrior is viewed as a man, but all along it was Princess Nausicaa. And it makes you kind of wonder. It makes you kind of see the stereotypes that Miyazaki is trying to point out too, of how people can't even see that this woman who's strong and independent and can fight is not their warrior. So we even question, like, why can't women be warriors, and why was she ever even not considered? We also see Nausicaa going through this hero's journey, initiation journey, and she goes through at the end self-sacrificing herself and giving up her life, and is reincarnated in a sense, and goes through this death and rebirth cycle, and comes back a new transformative person. And we see a lot of magic going on at the end, with all the golden little specks flying off of her. Very magical scene altogether. Very beautiful movie, well done. Now, within our second film, Princess Mononoke, it takes place within Japan, and the movie starts with an enraged boar demon attacking in a Mishi village. And that's when we see our protagonist, Ashitaka. He kills the boar, but is infected. And he is banished from the village, and he searches for a cure. It's very sad that we see him being banished, but he's a fierce warrior. He now has demon hand powers, which can gruesomely kill people, and he never misses a shot. But it just is very violent, and he knows that it comes from a side of hate because there's part of a demon within him. But he himself holds a very non-violent standpoint. He believes that the hate should be put aside and that the forest and the people should live in peace. He goes through this hero's journey as well, and a journey of initiation, and although he was tainted and dying at the end of the movie when the mountain is renewed, so is he. He self-sacrifices himself, just like Nausicaa did. And he goes through this also death and rebirth process, in which he is reincarnated and goes through this transformative experience to be a better, stronger man, which I think is a very interesting concept. Now, our strong female role model within this film is Princess Monarchy, and she's a part of the wolf tribe within the forest. But she's human. She has a very strong hatred towards humans, which is very justified because they have destroyed the forest that she protects as her job. And not only that, they want to wish harm into the forest spirit, which is a deer-like animal by day and night walker spirit by night. And she's sworn to protect the spirit of the forest because it's her home. And just like in Nausicaa, when there's a war between the Tomikians and the Pedgites, in Monarchy there's a war between the forest and the animals and the humans. And we see a lot of bloodshed being happening between the people of Irontown, which is led by Lady Ibashi, and the animals. Now, Irontown leader, Lady Ibashi, she wants to rule the world. She's a villain within the movie, but even she is a good person. Yes, she can be greedy and overambitious, but she buys off women's contracts from brothels and takes them to her village and gives them a free life, an independent life, to choose, to not have to marry if they don't want to. If they want to marry, they can, but to be strong and fearless woman. And she teaches them how to fight and to hold their own and to protect the village, and not just to let men do all the work, which I think is also a very incredible concept that Mrs. Haki has put into the movie. We also see a lot of animism going on, which is spirits inhabiting the land or animals. We see that the gods within the film, with the myths, these gods, these legends, are actually being inhabited within like wolves and boars and deer-like animals. And we also see these little forest tree spirits that inhabit the forest and the trees, and they help guide Ashitaka when he needs help to Irontown, and they just watch over the forest. So we see that happening. Within both movies, we see a lot of Buddhist concepts and religious concepts going around. We see a lot of ahisma, which is non-injury and compassion. We see that both movies, the main character protagonists really hold a non-violent standpoint. And that I also think is interesting. We see a lot of karma going on, a lot of reincarnation going on, a lot of these enlightened beings, also known as bodhisattvas, returning and helping others. That usually tends out to be our protagonists, like Nausicaa and Princess Monarchy. Even Nausicaa wants to help the Pedgite soldier, and even Ashitaka wants to help Princess Monarchy and the village. He can't even take a side on which side to help. He wants to help everyone. We see a lot of also anatma, which is a lot of us against them mentality, a lot of there has to be a war, there has to be a side versus a side, a lot of deflated egos going on. And I think that's very interesting. Instead of like within both movies, each side can't come to terms and listen to the other, or try to find peace, or trying to find negotiation, or try to work together. Instead, we see a lot of people taking what they want, causing issues, and then violence erupting from that, which I think can say something about how humans tend to be greedy and non-considerate. And this movie, these myths, really are there to point out the bad parts of human behavior and highlight them, and then also to show what we can do and how we can be to have justice and to be brave and fight against those stereotypes, just as our protagonist did. Now, the environmental standpoints within both these movies, we see a lot of humans affecting and destroying the world. In Nausicaa, she says the soil is tainted, and that's the reason the poison continues. Who could have had the impact on the soil except for humans? It's obvious that it's humans who did that to the world. And within Princess Mononoke, we see a lot of deforestation, destruction of habitats, trying to kill animals, destruction of a whole boar army, going after the spirit deer who doesn't want to even bother the humans or mess with them. We see a lot of humans trying to just take what they want and think violence is the answer. And I think that's what both these films highlight. Well, thank you and have a good day.